welcome back. Today we'll be reading the next part of The Reaper, What If Izuku is Part of the Assassination Classroom by Ray of Frost. So here we go. Chapter 18. Quarterfinals, first round, Denki Kaminari versus Shoto Todoroki. The student portion of the outcasts gathered at the back of the 1A observation booth. The other students gave them a wide berth as the maniacs strategized. May was loudly explaining new and terrifying ideas for support gear. Izuku was mumbling 1,000 ways to tear apart his classmates' quirks and fighting styles. Hitoshi was explaining psychological warfare tactics. Itano was tinkering with what looked to be a miniature tank. And Denki was offering input for all of the conversations. Shoto has started to use his fire side, but he's in practice. On the other hand, ice is made of water, and water conducts electricity, Izuku muttered. Denki's match against Todoroki was next, so he steered the conversation in that direction. I wonder how many volts it'd take to get him through one of his glaciers. Izuku looked up at him, beamed, and then went in depth about the logistics of using an iceberg as an electrical conductor. The students, unfortunate enough to be within earshot, shuddered in fear. How can he sound so happy while explaining such graphic details? Hawks noticed Endeavor leave the pro-hero section of the stands. His gut picked up a few red flags, especially if Izuku's theories about the man were true. So he discreetly followed him. Turning around another corner, Hawks' suspicions were confirmed. Endeavor was not supposed to be in this part of the arena, and he certainly shouldn't be yelling at one of the participants. He shouldn't be yelling at his son even if it wasn't blatant trespassing. Hawks was breaking this up. The number 3 pro hero approached the number 2 with practice silenced. He waved one of his feathers in front of a nearby camera to get Ritsu's attention, as he repositioned the camera to face the scene the Todoroki patriarch was making. Before reaching Endeavor, Hawk slipped into the hero persona the HPSC beat into him for most of his life. A smile, with enough artificial sweetness to rot teeth, plastered on his face. "Hey, Endeavor, what's up?" Hawks chirped up to the taller pro. "Can't you see I'm busy?" was Endeavor's rough reply. "Oh, sorry if I interrupted something, but Todoroki's fight's coming up soon, so I figured you'd be done talking. We should chat as we head back to our seats. I don't think we're supposed to be back here." The tension between the two pros was thick enough to cut, and Shoto took the opportunity to run away. Hawks placated the flaming dumpster by feeding his ego and shoving sugar-filled word salad down Endeavor's throat. It didn't take a genius to tell Todoroki was pissed. Rage-filled heterochromatic eyes bored into Denki without really seeing him. Not a good sign. Denki gulped and got into a fighting stance. How can I use his anger against him? Denki was terrible at planning. But, except for Izuku's plans never survive first contact with the enemy. Denki was a go-with-the-flow kind of guy. When life throws a wrench into perfect plans, Denki knows how to take the wrench and beat his enemies with it. And beat enemies he did. Todoroki was too angry to realize his mistake when he encased Denki in ice all the way up to his neck. Denki smirked and began to spark. Todoroki's eyes went wide as he tried to escape his fate. Electricity surged through the glacier and Todoroki's steel-toed boots. The dual-haired teen collapsed to the ground in a smoldering heap. The crowd went wild at the unexpected win, but all Denki could think about was the realization that he had incapacitated the one person who could get him out of the glacier in a timely manner. Quarterfinals, second round. Mina Ishido versus Satoshi Shinzo. Denki was still shivering even after visiting Recovery Girl and sitting under a weighted blanket under a heat lamp eating a whip together. It took 10 minutes for UA's robots to chip him out of the glacier, and in that time, the chill had seeped into the blonde's bones. It took another 10 minutes for Todoroki to regain consciousness and melt the ice, and 5 more minutes for the stage to dry. The next match promised significantly less damage to the arena. Hitoshi was the outcast's genius of persuasion. He knew how to dig into others' minds and manipulate them like clay. He was good at putting up fronts and tricking people into doing his bidding, even without his quirk. "Hey, Ashido, I'm concerned about Todoroki," Hitoshi confessed to the pink girl, with a face of worry. The two were waiting for the arena to finish drying. He seemed really upset before his last match, and I don't think his son loss helped. "So, I'm not the only one who noticed?" Mina replied with a frown. "You should talk to him about it soon. You're his friend, aren't you?" Hitoshi slightly narrowed his eyes and had just enough suspicion to the tone of his voice to let her start doubting herself, and how good of a friend she was. Ashido's friends mean the world to her, and now that the seeds of doubt were planted, they'd fester and distract her during her upcoming match. It was solid advice, though. Todoroki really did look like he needed a friend to vent to. Ashido couldn't think straight during her match. Shinzo was incredible at hand-to-hand fighting, but she couldn't stop thinking about how upset Todoroki looked. She should have talked to him earlier, and she should have comforted him after his loss. Wait, I need to focus! Unfortunately, Ashido was too late. Shinzo had already put her in a sleeper hold. The lanky boy had wrapped his legs around her arms and torso to prevent her from using her acid against him effectively, and in a matter of seconds, Ashido was taken out. Shinzo had won, once again, and his quirk was still a mystery. Ashido sulked as she exited the arena. Suddenly, her stupor was interrupted by her closest friends. "Hey, Ashi! Good job out there!" Kirishima cheered. "You put up a good fight. Now we can blow this ice cream stall?" Todoroki said, with an almost constipated look. Did I say that right? Ashido visibly perked up, seeing her friends in good spirits. "Close enough, Toto, babe!" Quarterfinals, 3rd round. Izuku Midoriya versus Momo Yayorozu. Yayorozu prided herself on her intelligence. If it weren't for her vast knowledge of chemistry and the composition of many things, her quirk wouldn't be half as useful. She also thought herself a pretty good strategist. She had made it to the quarterfinals of the UA Sports Festival, and she intended to go all the way. There was one problem with her plans. She had no idea what Midoriya was planning. She overheard Shinzo call him a strategy genius, so he must be proficient at it. The other part of his problem was his quirk. He hasn't used the strength aspect of his quirk at all during the festival, but that doesn't mean he won't now. If he sticks with his black whip technique, then it's reasonable to believe he'll try and grab her and toss her out of the ring like he did with Kendo. And that's precisely what Midoriya did, and no amount of strategy and creation could prevent it. Midoriya wrapped 6 tendrils of black whip around various parts of her torso and tossed her out of the ring. He would have given her more of a chance to show off, but he couldn't think of a reliable way to do that and win. It was a testament to Yayorozu's strength and intelligence. Quarterfinals, 4th round. Ibara Shiozaki of Class 1B versus Katsuki Bakugo of Class 1A. Shiozaki was a child of God, and now she was face to face with what could only be called a hellspawn. Katsuki Bakugo grinned ferally at the opposite end of the arena while letting little explosions loose on his palms. She folded her hands across her chest and muttered a small prayer before the beginning of the match. As soon as the match started, Bakugo howled a demonic screech and hurled himself towards the vine user. Shiozaki tried to block him with her vines, but they were blasted out of the way by the Hellspawn's explosions. She managed to wrap enough vines around her opponent to immobilize him. "Let the power of Christ compel you!" Shiozaki yelled, as if trying to exorcise her opponent. Bakugo growled in response. He yelled, "Die!" and blew his binding sky high. Howling another demonic screech, Bakugo plowed through the remainder of Shiozaki's vines and launched her out of the ring. The tournament bracket was updated to show the matchups for the semifinals. Chapter 19. The Grand Finale. Semifinals. Denki Kaminari vs. Hitoshi Shinzo. Denki gazed into the pools of violet. They glared back. The color drained from the blonde's face. There was no way he'd win against Hitoshi's brutal fighting style. And that glare made it clear Hitoshi wasn't going to be going easy on him. As President Mike announced his upcoming battle, the slight amount of bloodlust leaking from his opponent sent him into do-or-die mode. In a flash, Denki took his knowledge of his own and Hitoshi's fighting styles to devise some modicum of a solution. If he coated himself in electricity, then Hitoshi wouldn't be able to contact him directly. "Look at this!" President Mike shouted. Shinzo and Kaminari engage in a brutal hand-to-hand fight, or, I guess, hand-to-foot. Indeed, Hitoshi was fighting Denki with kicks only. His boots were insulated, so they were the only way he could attack the electricity-coated teen without being tased. Denki should have known his trick wouldn't work. Kick after kick, Hitoshi pushed Denki closer and closer to the arena's edge. No words were exchanged between the two. They were too focused on the fight at hand to throw witty banter back and forth. Hitoshi's experience was showing against the amateur, and before long, Denki was kicked out of the ring. Izuku stopped Denki as he exited the arena. Honestly, Denki had no hard feelings about the loss. He was kinda doomed from the start. "Hey, Denki," Izuku started. "Hey," the blonde replied. "So, it's come to my attention that ice doesn't really conduct electricity." Denki blue screened. "What?" "Don't ask. I don't know. Quirks are bullshit." Semifinals. Izuku Midoriya vs. Katsuki Bakugo. The childhood friend turned bully versus the victim turned assassin. The fight to end all fights. There was so much build-up and so much suspense. Get on the edge of your seat. The fight was anticlimactic. As soon as the match started, Izuku wrapped Black Whip around Bakugo's ankles, flung him around, slammed him into the ground like a heavy flail, and after the 3-second beatdown, Bakugo was unceremoniously tossed outside the ring. Now for the finals. Izuku Midoriya vs. Hitoshi Shinzo. Last one out of the ring is a rotten egg. You're on! This has got to be the weirdest match I've ever seen, Mike commented without his announcer's voice. It appears like they're trying to lose, Aizawa muttered. Lo and behold, Izuku and Hitoshi desperately tried to keep each other from leaving the ring first. Hitoshi made a break for the ring, and Izuku pulled him back with Black Whip. Izuku made a mad dash, only for Hitoshi to grab his legs and tackle him. Hitoshi clambered over the green net and almost made it out of bounds when Izuku lifted him over his head and walked out of bounds. Izuku set the Insomniac out of bounds next to him, and the two waited for Midnight to announce the winner. Midnight had no idea what that was about, but Hitoshi won, since Izuku was the first to step out of bounds. With a blank stare like she was on autopilot, she raised her whip in the air. Shinzo wins by ring out? The heroine shook her head and walked off the stage. The awards ceremony was okay, Izuku guessed, but the party his mom, Irina, and Keigo threw for the outcast students was way better. The found family partied late into the night playing board games and talking about whatever weird topics came up. After most of the outcasts went home, Hitoshi, Keigo, and Izuku sat on the balcony of Keigo's apartment. "Keigo, what's bothering you?" Hitoshi asked. The winged man sighed at being found out so easily. "The commission. What do those a-holes want with you now?" Izuku asked with heavy amounts of snark. Nothing too big. They reprimanded me about how emotional I got watching you at the sports festival. Apparently, crying isn't a good look for the number 3 hero, or something. They also wanted me to do an advertisement or something on Wednesday. Keigo sighed. I am just tired of being their poster boy, lapdog, or whatever else they want of me, depending on their whims. I mean, I like helping people. I don't know what I'd do if I wasn't a hero, but the commission doesn't want me to just help people. They want me to hurt some people. Just too many people. I genuinely hate the media and the persona they make me wear. I just want to be free. The trio sat in silence for a moment, letting Keigo vent. Then Izuku broke it. If you're okay with going underground and working with Nezu, I may have a way out for you. Keigo quirked an eyebrow at Izuku's proclamation. Suddenly, Izuku's phone pinged for his Hero News app. A toothy grin spread across his face as an article of Stain popped up on his screen. I have just the cover-up, the greenette chirped. Chapter 20. The Phoenix dies, only to rise from its ashes. Stain was beyond angry. Some lunatics who called themselves the League of Villains tried recruiting him, but they had no ideals. Their supposed leader was nothing but a raging man-child who wanted to destroy anything that angered him. When he declined their offer, the man-child tried attacking him. He fought back and nearly killed the fool when he was suddenly teleported back to Hosu. Such a tragedy. What happened to Ingenium? The hero killer whipped around and raised a blade to the speaker's neck. Hawks. Stain? The number 3 hero replied coldly. So what does the Hero Commission's lapdog want? I want you to end the number 3 hero. Izuku was standing outside a dilapidated apartment building. So this is the abode of All Might's mentor, Gran Torino. The greenette sighed and walked inside. He squinted at the lack of light in the apartment. The only source of light was the doorway. He went still as he noticed an old man lying in a pool of a red substance that appeared to be ketchup. Excuse me, sir, do you need any help? Izuku asked in a light tone. He figured it'd work best if he acted more upbeat and kind. Ray of sunshine, if you will. I'm clearly bleeding out on the floor, was the gruff man's response. Sorry, but that's clearly ketchup. It smells like tomato, not iron. Smart kid. I won't ask why you know what blood smells like, but note that fact is concerning. So, Gran Torino, sir, what do you have planned for my training? You'll see, but first, who are you? The old man slipped into a senile-sounding voice, but Izuku could easily identify a fellow actor. I'm Izuku Midoriya, the aspiring underground hero, Viridian Rabbit. Viridian Rabbit? Izuku unzipped the jacket he was wearing and folded it inside out. He put the jacket back on and pulled up the hood. The pro hero acknowledged the green rabbit ears on the hood. "So you went with your costume's theme," Gran Torino noted. "Yeah, the other outcasts and I chose a color animal motif for names. Hitoshi went with Violet Cat, and Denki went with Amber Axolotl. Keigo is going with Carmine Eagle." Gran Torino didn't know who Keigo was, but the way Izuku delivered that last sentence put a foreboding pit in his stomach. He suppressed that feeling and moved on to the actual lesson. "Well, since you're already in your hero costume, let's start immediately." The old pro crouched in preparation for a jump. "If you can land one hit on me, you pass." He launched into the air, propelled by his quirk, and bounced around the room at breakneck speeds. A sharp pain stabbed the back of his head, and he avoided Gran Torino's sucker punch. Izuku tracked the pro's movements and dodged the attacks with minimal effort. It was clear the pro was holding back, but he shouldn't have been able to dodge the attacks from behind so easily. Izuku took the opportunity to study his fighting style. Gran Torino was about as fast as Keigo, but not nearly as fast as Koro-sensei. Izuku activated Black Whip a moment later and yanked Gran Torino out of the air. "Dang, kid," Gran Torino grumbled and rubbed his head. "Are you okay?" Izuku asked and offered his hand to the pro. "I'm fine," Gran Torino grunted. "You're pretty good. Who trained you?" "The number 3 hero and an S-class villain." "You've got a good sense of humor too, huh? So, who actually taught you?" "Irina and Keigo. They're like my older siblings. Both are skilled fighters." "You know what? I don't think there's much I can teach you. I teach you about the paperwork or non-combat aspects of heroics, but as you can see, I don't have an agency anymore. I only work as a hero part-time." So much for All Might's mentor. "Hey, kid!" Gran Torino snapped Izuku out of his thoughts. The Greenette noticed the old man had cleaned the ketchup and was preparing to leave the battered apartment. "We're going out on patrol." Denki was utterly terrified. He was interning with a woman with an international heroics license, Irina Yelovich. Her license was to keep her out of trouble when she used her quirk. For her real job, assassination. Her quirk was fascinating. She called it Blur. When activated, her image would be blurred in the memories of anyone who saw her and any photos or videos of her. Denki went with her for his internship to get used to the new weapons and support gear he was given. "Hey, Denki, what are you thinking of doing for heroics?" Irina asked as they walked to a nearby training ground. "I, always thought of being a popular and flashy hero, but now I'm rethinking that. I feel like I could help more people on night patrols. Even if I don't plan on being as elusive as the standard underground hero. I'd do that type of work instead, you know? I mean, less powerful villains and more weaker villains instead reduce the chances of overloading my quirk, and the lack of press is an added bonus. I don't think I'd be able to handle that kind of stress," Denki rambled. "Okay. Oh, by the way, we couldn't get the barb gun to shoot accurately, and it won't work well enough to redirect electricity." They entered the training center, and a black box waited for them on a nearby bench. The room they were in was a vast expanse of concrete with various punching bags and training dummy. The two blondes were in athletic wear, and Irina opened the box. She turned around and presented the items to Denki. "We got you a whip and a few other toys, though." Denki examined the items he was handed. The whip was actually a braided cable with an electrical plug on the end for extra weight. The cable is made of woven fibers of a flexible yet durable metal alloy. The other support equipment included steel knuckle dusters and a completely silent taser powered by his quirk. Irina smiled as Denki tested out his new equipment. He needed work with his aim with the whip and taser, but he was a natural at the boxing-esque style Hitoshi and Izuku taught him. "Hey, Dinks, suit up! We're heading to Hosu." Operation Phoenix? The teen inquired. Operation Phoenix, Irina confirmed. Hitoshi was interning with pro hero Miss Joke. She was very loud, probably the loudest underground hero in Japan. Unfortunately, he couldn't help with Operation Phoenix, as she was based hours from Hosu. She made another bad pun, and he groaned in response. Hitoshi paused with his hand frozen halfway in the motion of a facepalm. Oh my god, Hitoshi muttered in horror. You want me to use dad jokes to get responses from people? Hey, Joke whined. It's better than constantly insulting people. It's less likely to escalate tense situations, and it's likely to get a response regardless of how it's received. I hate to say you're right. It's a good application of my quirk. But do not expect me to start being all happy-go-lucky, Hitoshi said, saying the last part with jazz hands and a deadpan expression. It was utter chaos in Hosu. It was the first day of UA internships, and that night, the League of Villains decided to retaliate against the hero killer. Fire was everywhere. Civilians were crying, Nomus were shrieking, and all Ida could think about was how this was the perfect opportunity to slip away from his mentor and look for Stain. The engine-legged teen ran off while Manuel looked the other way and raced through the alleyways. Izuku sat quietly across from Gran Torino on the train. The train was passing through Hosu, and the stabbing sensation had returned. The hero in training was on high alert. He didn't know much about the new sensation, but he had a feeling it was one of the quirks of the past users. He did know it meant danger would be on its way. Izuku launched into action, grabbing Gran Torino and a couple of civilians with Black Whip, and throwing them out of the impending crash site. Suddenly, a winged Nomu with a random hero in its clutches slammed into the train car, right where the people Izuku grabbed previously sat. Gran Torino and the other hero leapt into action and took the fight with the Nomu away from the train full of civilians. Gran said something about staying put, but Izuku had other plans and leapt into the burning city. Ida ran from alley to alley in hopes of finding the hero killer. He heard the clang of blades colliding and ran faster into the alley. What he saw horrified him. Blood and red feathers littered the alley, and the number 3 pro hero lay limp on the dirty pavement. Stain was monologuing about fake heroes, and Ida snapped upon seeing him. He readied to launch himself at the hero killer, but was stopped by a whip wrapping around his legs and torso. Ida! What the hell are you doing? A familiar voice whisper yelled. Ida turned his head to see the angry face of Kaminari. You know what? Don't tell me. Plausible deniability is important, and you have yet to use your quirk. Back off. This is not your place. And before you go and do something stupid, properly assess the situation. Ida was about to retort when Kaminari shoved a hand over his mouth and twisted his head to look back at the alley. It was then that Ida saw the long red feather sticking from Stain's chest. The feather was in the wrong place to hit the villain's heart, but it could reasonably be deduced that it punctured a lung. The hero killer then coughed up some blood and froze before going limp and collapsing in the alley next to Hawks. Kaminari removed his hand from Ida's face, but kept a hand on his shoulder to keep him from interfering. Flashing lights illuminated the dingy street as police cars and heroes rounded the corner. Who Ida assumed was an EMT, rushed to Hawks' side and began checking his vitals. He must have been out of it because he couldn't quite make out her face. The hero Manuel and several police officers were the next to arrive. Manuel fretted over Ida as he ensured his intern was safe and unharmed. Then he fussed over the other teen accompanying his intern. The pro finally calmed down after he was reassured that they were both unscathed and didn't engage in the battle. The cops and some EMTs were loading Stain into an ambulance when the EMT checking on Hawks finally gave an update on his condition. "He's dead," was her simple report. Static filled Ida's head as the EMT continued. "He died of what appears to be a blood loss approximately 2 minutes ago." The police report acknowledged the presence of the 2 UA students as witnesses to Stain's takedown, but that they also arrived just after the time of Hawks' death. There were no witnesses to the actual fight, but it was assumed that Hawks was able to puncture Stain's lung before getting hit by his quirk. The hero killer then dealt a blow to the paralyzed hero that eventually led to him bleeding out and dying before anyone else could arrive. Little did they know, the hero couldn't leave a fatal blow. Hawks should have been able to recover quite easily as long as he got a couple stitches and rested for a week. But nobody knew that. Nobody knew where his body went. The last they saw of him was his body being wheeled out of the ER by a nurse who was inexplicably blurry in all the security footage, and whom nobody could identify. The police chief and a newbie detective reviewed the evidence they had. They had no leads on who stole the remains of the number 3 hero, but there was no way the commission would want the public to find out he was stolen. If anything, they would sweep the whole incident under the rug and bury an empty casket. The detective furrowed his brows. "Hey, did we get the name of the EMT that declared him dead?" The dog-headed police chief sighed and said, "Rookie, I know what you're thinking, but there's no way he's alive. Woof." They also had a lot of blood at the scene, and one of the witnesses confirmed he was gravely injured. The other was too out of it to give a proper report. "Poor kid. He just saw someone die at the hands of the villain that crippled his brother," the rookie detective commented. He really hoped the Ida kid was getting therapy, or at least some proper help. Tragedies like this are pretty traumatizing. That being said, it was strange how well the other kid was handling the ordeal. Maybe it hasn't hit him yet? Dinky was released back to the supervision of Irina shortly after the police took a statement. It was ridiculous how fast she was able to switch uniforms, from her hero costume to EMT to nurse, and back to her hero costume, all while pretending to be 3 different people and tricking the police, medical staff, and heroes into believing Hawks was dead. Dinky was just glad the lie detector detective wasn't involved. He would have caused way more complications. The blonde boy had to lie in his police report saying that Keigo was more injured than he actually was, and Irina had to declare his death and cover him before anyone realized he clearly wasn't. The blonde duo was suddenly approached by a green-haired boy. "Hey guys," Izuku greeted. "How's the Phoenix doing?" "He has fallen and shall soon rise from the ashes," Irina replied cryptically. The need to talk in code was quickly revealed when Gran Torino rocketed in on a collision course with Izuku's shoulder, only to be sidestepped and landed on the pavement with a loud thud. Izuku squeaked at the old man's sudden appearance. "I thought I told you to stay put," the gruff man asked. Izuku rubbed the back of his neck, putting up a sweet and innocent act, and raising the pitch of his voice slightly. "I'm sorry, sir," he said sheepishly. "I wanted to check in on my friends because I knew they were here." He gestured to Irina and Denki. Here they are! Safe and sound." He grinned. Gran Torino raised an eyebrow at that overly bright smile. That's all you were doing." Izuku continued to beam, completely unperturbed by the questioning. "Yep." The old man blinked slowly in response. "Hey, Irina has a car. Can I get a ride home from her? It'd save money on train fees." Gran Torino recognized the name from Izuku's earlier rant. She was one of the older sibling figures that raised the boy. "Izuku told me you were one of the people who trained him." The short man addressed the tall woman. Good job. Good job. He's an excellent fighter." Irina got a cocky grin. "Ha! That's right! I'm the best!" she boasts. Izuku slapped her on the arm to snap her out of it. You hardly helped with my combat training. That was Keigo. There was another name Izuku had mentioned. Gran Torino still didn't have a face to match that name, but there wasn't much he could do about that. There wasn't much of a reason why he shouldn't allow the boy to go with his friends, as the day was over, and now would be the time they part ways anyway. It was either let the boy take the train home alone, or get a ride with someone he was familiar with. Whatever, kid, just make sure you're back for your internship tomorrow, he agreed before rocketing off with his quirk. Well, that was odd, Izuku muttered. Irina shrugged and guided her friends to her car. Dinky took the front passenger seat, and Izuku sat behind him. I live, bitches, a smooth voice called from the driver's side back seat. Keigo was dressed in a fresh t-shirt and jeans, with butterfly stitches and clean bandages. The blonde man smirked and moved his wings to make room for Izuku. Keigo was missing a good chunk of his feathers, but he was already growing in new ones. Let's celebrate your death, then figure out the rest of our plan. We're about to become good friends with the rat god, Izuku said with a mischievous grin. In his office, Nezu sneezed. Something tells me something very interesting is about to happen. Okay, and that's the end of chapter 20. Fun fact, I'm caught up with all of the stuff that I have posted of this work. Wow, surprise, which means it's going to be even longer before we get more updates for this series. Also, February is kicking my butt when it comes to packed schedules. I've got 3 exams and some performances and stuff coming up, and multiple regional competitions for different clubs. Oh wow. February is kicking my butt. Hey. I mean, yeah, shortest month of the year, and they decided to pack the most events into this one month. So that's why I haven't been posting, because I've been focusing on not falling behind and failing all of my college classes. I can either post another chapter of Podfic, or I can get sleep and not fail my classes. So you can kind of guess which of the two I chose. So I'm sorry about that. Sorry about not posting, but I found some time, so here we are. On top of that, we kind of need, I think that's about it. I'm trying to think of how I kind of want to wrap up the series. I have a pretty good idea of how I want to do it. Just whether or not, how long it's going to take for me to get there is kind of the thing. I'm kind of hoping to wrap it up within the next, at most 6 more chapters. Because, next chapter's obviously going to be finals. And then after finals is the training camp, and then it's I can segue from the training camp into the ending, but how do I want to do that? Because, I kind of want to resolve all of the loose plot points before dog is barking and messing up my little PNG tuber guy. So I think we've only got a few more chapters left. We're coming into the end game of this series. I kind of want to get it finished so that I can focus on other series that I'm having more fun with. I have a problem where I'll just be sitting down and then realize, hey, this is a fun idea. I want to write a story about this. And then I'm just wait, you've got 5 other Google Docs open with other works that are half-baked and not done yet. You should finish some things before starting new ones. And yeah, so here we are. There's the other thing is do I bring back all of the old what-ifs in the form of podfics? Do I just you abandon all of them and make new shit? Like, I am at a crossroads because most of the stuff I'm writing right now is completely new, but but I've got other ideas that I kind of want to go back and elaborate on, but they'll take absolutely forever to go through. And then the other thing is, like, do I only post my own work, or do I post other people's work? Like, do I reach out to other authors? How do I reach out to other authors? Or do I just, stick with what I'm good at, also known as the same stuff I've always done, which is the stuff I write. I mean, you don't have to worry about people getting mad and wanting to take it down if it's the stuff that you write, I guess. Oh dear. Oh dear. Boy, is this a doozy. This recording is almost an hour long, and then I have to sit and edit all of it. This is going to take absolutely forever, especially since I also want to record the other chapter of Teens Time Loops and Total Chaos today. Oh dear. Why do I do this to myself? Well, I'm going to go do that. Make sure to drink water, guys. Have a good day.